Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Micro Reflections for the 21st Century, a collection of introspections to shift your daily perspective. And this was written during the weird new world of COVID. And this was a lot of my own personal reflections while microdosing, while macrodosing, while meditating, and how our humanness really, bam, collided with what was going on in the world at that time, and how it really shifted a lot of people's worldviews, including mine, and really how important it is to remember that we are all interconnected human beings here, going through our own anxieties, our own addictions, our own neurosis, all the things, the grand tapestry of being a human being, and nature being one of Medicine Box's 7 pillars is a great muse. It's a great way to really help us understand that we are all part of this larger network of humans on this grand earth. And when we can look towards nature, we can really get a lot of interesting answers or metaphors or analogies for life. And this reading here in week 11, starting week 11 off, passage 31 here, the rising and setting of the sun. And for those of you that have been listening, reading, maybe you're reading and listening, maybe you're reading to other people now, remember, take what you need, leave the rest. This is just my interpretation. And every time I read these out loud, especially, I get a whole different meaning from them. So they can be very timeless there, and also anchored in many of our own individual human experiences, as well as our collective human experience. And you can actually find these posted in the classroom section of the Medicine and Mentorship microdosing community. This is all for free. There's some other great videos in there. Microdosing for moms, psychedelics and recovery. There's a mini microdosing course in there. And then once a month I do a presentation or a webinar that some of you may have joined, and I post those in there too. So you can actually get these recordings, every single one of them, 1 through 36. That will be on that classroom, and I can show you that here. That's my desktop. You don't want to. So here's the Medicine and Mentorship community, and the micro reflections here, and then all of these, and then there's like a little copy to go along with that, and then this is just as a book, so that can be ordered right on the TryMindsEye.com site, and it's a great book to just have laying around, sitting around at your bedside table or your breakfast nook or your countertop. All right, so let's get going here. So, the rising and setting of the sun. Many of us tell ourselves that we have problems. We become attached to the notion that these so-called problems are the reason why we aren't evolving or moving forward in our lives. These narratives harden into attachments, then identities, a part of our construction, and they weigh us down, brick by brick. The if I had this, or if I had that, the if it was this way or that way, I would be more grateful, better liked, and accepted. What if you knew that was completely false, that these so-called problems are just experiences, part of the allure and magic of the overall human experience, the beautiful even when it's ugly, the annoying yet fulfilling human experience. Yet our ego is always working overtime. manufacturing these problems like an assembly line that doesn't seem to stop because it's been set on a loop. To be free from this loop, it can be as simple as being grateful for the sun rising today. We don't ever question why the sun rises in the east. East for me is right over there, nor why it sets in the west. It's right behind me here. We simply allow it to have that grand, and what a grand experience all on its own, day after day. We accept it exactly how it is. The clouds, rain, sleet, and snow come, and they go. But the sun, yes, the sun, it's always rising and setting in the same place. And of course, every single one of these passages has a concluding quote to really capture the essence of this passage. And one of my favorite philosophers in teachers, I'd say I'm kind of a disciple here of Alan Watts, and what a just fantastic human and person that took a lot of like Eastern religion and mystic teachings and really synthesized it down into a format and a way to comprehend those teachings for Westerners like myself and many others. So the biggest ego trip is getting rid of your ego. And of course the joke of it all is that your ego does not exist. And I put that quote here on this one because many of this whole passage here is really just the stories and narratives that our ego constructs or manufactures. I always say you are the main character in the screenplay written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by Martin Scorsese. Okay, so just remember all those stories and those narratives and those so-called problems that we develop in our mind, not our brain, in our mind. And at the time of this recording, it's interesting that my dad has been going through a lot of anxiety and these so-called problems, and he's 70 years old, and I love the guy super a lot, and his ego is working overtime because he thinks he has to like do all this stuff and fix all these things on the property, and if he doesn't fix them, then they're going to get broken more, and if they get broken more, he's going to have to spend more money to fix them, and he's in that manufacturing on the assembly line that's set on a loop. And so if you or someone you love are going through this loop, so to speak, or these so-called problems, just remember to have a lot of compassion. It's so easy for us to want to shake them and be like, it's okay, you're making mountains out of mouse turds. Okay, but when you're in that loop, it's very hard to break free of it, right? The if I had this or if I had that, or if it was this way, I would be, right? It's always something else. It's very conditional. And if you've been paying attention to any of these, I often say that we have to be unconditional in an unconditional universe. And one thing I've been telling my dad is that the universe doesn't really care, about your problems, Dad. It doesn't really care if you're going to get, your self-perceived problems, that is. It doesn't care if you're going to fix the 10 things on your list that need to be fixed and, produce, and do the things that need to get done. It really doesn't care. It just is. So one way to combat this is to be more grateful just with the things that you have, not if I had the thing, I will be more grateful. Okay, it's always, it's a trickery that these external things outside of us are going to make us happier, right, and more grateful and more accepted and better liked and all these things. And all at the same time, we're attached to the thoughts, and that is they start to deeply ingrain in our brain. And now the rising and the setting of the sun. Why is that? Well, I know from personal experience, I don't look at the sunrise in the east and say, why are you rising there? Why wouldn't you do that in the west? And I'm not happy that you're doing that. You're disturbing me, right? That's a problem that the sun is rising in the east, and then it goes up in an arc all day long and gives us light and life, and then it sets in the west. We never question that. So why should we question the narratives in our mind? We just allow it to happen. So a nice practice to infuse in your daily life is just to really face the east, right, with acceptance, and ask for that intuitive guidance and that inner voice, just like the sun. That is the intuitive guidance, right, of the sun, and it's the inner voice of life in this earth. And then face the west and just ask for acceptance and allowance. I can find no peace or serenity until I accept people, places, and things exactly as they are in this present moment. And thank you for allowing things to come and things to go. Like, the thing that is coming is the sun, and it is going in the west and setting. So the clouds, rain, sleet, and snow, right? Metaphorical for our self-perceived problems, okay? The economics, finances, relationships, children, your boss, the modern demands of our society now, right? We all have them. As long as we are a human with a beating heart, this is what I tell my dad, and a mind, we're always going to have anxiety, right? It's just whether or not we are allowing the anxiety to control us, okay? We have to respond to it, okay? And the clouds, rain, sleet, and snow, self-perceived problems. What is always there when there's clouds, rain, sleet, and snow? The sun. It's always there, okay? We don't get mad at the sun because it's cloudy out, okay? We don't get mad when there's rain, sleet, and snow at the sun. It's there, okay? So the sun meaning us, okay, our true self. What else can I pick on here? Yes, our ego, always working overtime. When I refer to ego, I refer to the thing that is like protecting us: food, shelter, clothing, survival. Okay, we need our ego. But when the ego is working overtime to ingrain these stories and these narratives into us, that is creating the self-perceived problems or turning mouse turds into mountains, that is when we are letting our ego control us, okay? And it's hard to break free from that. What's a solution? Well, there's one solution. You can microdose. Microdosing increases neuroplasticity. It helps create new experiences, right? So these so-called problems are just experiences, part of the allure and the magic of the overall human experience, the beautiful even when it's ugly, the annoying, right? It's very annoying when that stuff happens, yet fulfilling human experience. So those are experiences that our mind, right, is developing and creating, okay, and manufacturing. And how to get out of that, we have to create a new experience. Creating a new experience is essentially neuroplasticity. And microdosing can really help with that, especially when we are putting the work into the intention that we put forth into our practice. So the intention meaning is just energy, right? We don't get perception first. We have to put intention in. Then we get the perception to open ourselves up to these new experiences. And what is a new experience? Like, wow, that's actually not that big of a deal. Wow, I'm making such a big fuss out of that thing, right? Those are new experiences. Not, it doesn't have to be this crazy psychedelic, journey. So when I refer to new experiences, It's just when you're in that moment of that sub-perceptual dose, or that moment where you're opened up, right? I think of it as like when we are in these manufacturing so-called problems, we are very narrow, right? Narrow-minded, right? Super narrow in our vision. And then microdosing really can just help us open, right? Have a wide perspective. The Dalai Lama says, have a wide perspective on your life, right? Have that wide perspective, and then it opens up our perceptual awareness to be like, that's not worth holding on to. That was kind of easy. All I needed to do was make a long checklist of things and then prioritize. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And I'll finish off here by, again, the allowing, right? We allow the sun to set. We don't yell at it to not set. We don't say, I'm stupid. The sun is stupid for setting. We don't get mad at ourselves. We're not hard on ourselves. We don't try to change it, right? We just allow it. So why shouldn't we just allow these experiences to happen, to come and flow through us, where we don't have to attach to them? And the more we attach to these things, these experiences, people, places, and things, the more dangerous it is to get out of them. So don't let the narratives harden into attachments, and don't let those attachments become part of your identity, right? Because they do weigh us down brick by brick. And if y'all like any of this, get in touch. You can visit us at trymindseye.com. And this is just my fun way of kind of philosophizing and looking at nature and combining the 7 pillars of Medicine Box, which is mindfulness, food, music, community, collaboration, recovery, and nature being this evolving medium that just weaves it all together at all times. Remember, we come from nature, we go back to nature, we are nature. So, thanks for listening.